to listen to your favorite radio station, Newstalk770. There's even an app to make sure you buy the best wine. So how do you create an app that stands out? On today's Leaders, we're going to find out that seeing a need is really just the beginning. I am pleased to welcome Bruce Fikowski, founder and CEO of GetAssist. Bruce, thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks, Angela. Happy to be here.
And, of course, as you heard in the introduction, brought to you by GetAssist. And I want to just get a little snapshot of what GetAssist is before we kind of get into the background of Bruce Fikowski. Mm-hmm. So for someone who's never heard of GetAssist, what is GetAssist all about?
GetAssist is a new network. We launched it here in Calgary. It connects people online for business and social. So it's about having two memberships, business memberships and social memberships, on a single connected network.
And we are going to find out a lot more about GetAssist within this hour. But I want to find out really more about Bruce Fikowski. You were born where? Ottawa?
I was born in Ottawa, father of a pilot, test pilot. Moved to Olds, Alberta when I was 2, so I didn't spend a lot of quality time on the hill or anything like that.
So you were 2 when you moved to Olds?
Olds, Alberta, yeah.
How big was your family?
Family of 6.
6
two
girls?
2 brothers, a sister, and my parents.
Where did you fall in that 6? The 4 kids?
I was the third oldest.
Second
oldest. youngest.
Yeah. And what kind of a kid were you?
Oh, it depends who you ask, but if you asked my brothers, they would have called me small and whiny.
If we asked Bruce Fikowski, what kind of a kid did you see yourself as?
Oh, just like to be outdoors. I was inquisitive, always wanted to learn. I'm big on education. I was a big learner.
Tell me about growing up then in predominantly Olds, Alberta, would it have been?
Yeah, it was mostly Olds, Alberta. That's where I did my high school. And it was a great town. My father was a small businessman there. Small population, a lot of country kids. We had a good time growing up.
When you're growing up, you mentioned your father, but were there other people in your life that you looked up to as role models or leaders?
One guy in particular, a man, and that was Mr. Craven in our high school, senior high school.
Right.
Started out as a guidance counselor and worked his way to, I don't know if he worked his way, ended up teaching Math 31, and then he ended up as principal of the high school. And he always was a bit of a mentor to me.
And why? What was it about him that you really admired?
Oh, he connected with everybody, but I think he took a bit of a special interest with me. And not at my situation, but just a bit of understanding with me and helped support me in things I was doing. And I always think back to Mr. Craven.
Well, then you've got to tell me a bit more. Why did he see Bruce Fikowski and say that I want to be a role model to this young kid?
Well, I don't know if he actually thought about doing it, but it certainly kind of ended up that way. At one point, I found myself in high school with having taken a lot of math classes, but along the way, I didn't quite end up with what I needed to get into the Math 30 class I was in. Mm-hmm. So the school had a meeting, decided that I might have had Math 23 and 20 and all these others, but I never passed 10. I only got a 45.
Right.
So here I was with Math 20, 23, 30, taking 31, and they made me go back and my graduating year to take Math 10 again. And he was, at that point, he'd moved up to teaching math. And he really understood my situation. He made it easier on me to be there or to kick me out of the class repeatedly.
He kept you in line?
Yeah, he kept me at the back of the class.
He kicked you out of the line.
It'd be things like, okay, Mr. Fikowski, don't you have somewhere to be? It's almost 2 o'clock. Of course, I'd be 10 minutes into the class. I was like, just get out of here.
So then you have to tell me what kind of a high school student you were.
I was just an average high school student, nothing spectacular. I was too busy doing all the other things that high school boys do, driving cars, chasing young ladies around.
You got to get closer to the microphone because you're telling some stories about driving cars and chasing young girls, and I think a lot of listeners don't want to miss that part of your life. So
high school student,
but you still sounded like, you obviously finished that Math 10 when you had to go back there.
Yeah, I think when I graduated, they congratulated me on having more math than anybody in the history of the high school. I think I'd taken them all by the time I was done.
Did you like math?
I I don't mind math. I'm not sure I like it, but I think it's got great uses, and I've always been a big study of math and stats and things like that.
Well, and so talk more about Bruce the student, because I know you're saying you're the average high school kid driving cars and looking out for girls.
I wasn't doing a lot of school.
That's okay. So you don't have a lot to say about the education side of things.
No. By the time I got out of high school, I actually couldn't get into university, although I tried, and that's where Mr. Craven helped out a little bit too. But yeah, I came out with a 60 average, and I wasn't welcome to the higher institutions of learning. So
what did you do? Because you did eventually go to the University of Calgary.
Yeah, I graduated with distinction, as a matter of fact, and it wasn't a big effort for me. But by the time I'd gone on to post-secondary, when I went back, I wanted to be there, and it made it so much easier to learn. But
do I take from that you didn't go from grade 12 right into university?
No, I went to Mount Royal, and then I withdrew up for a couple of months, and I went and lived with my parents in Florida for maybe 6 months. What
kid wouldn't want to move to Florida to be with their parents?
It was great at first, and my father, being a very serious individual, said, "So what are you going to do now that you're here?" And my reply was, because I knew he liked the idea I was going to go to school, was, "I want to go to school down here." So I made some applications, and when I started getting accepted and then turning them down for various reasons, he suggested that I go back home to Canada and go to work.
And so you go back to Olds, to Alberta?
Yeah, I came back to Alberta and worked in the family business. And
which was?
Saskatchewan River Crossing. It's the crossing resort up on the Banff National Parkway.
That was your family's business?
Still is. We've had it for 41 years.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, my two brothers and I worked together. My mother's still part owner in the business, and it's a family. People
are very familiar with the Saskatchewan River Crossing.
Yeah.
Right? All right. So you go up there, and you're going to work in the resort. You're working there.
Yeah, I'm pumping gas. Yeah, living the dream. And,
considering this is the family business, and they're making sure you're starting at the bottom almost.
That's where I belonged. I wasn't putting my time in up there. Anyway, so I did that for a while, and then I realized, I should probably go to school. So I applied back to Mount Royal and got in, and I did, I think, a year and a half, maybe 2 there.
Right.
And then applied over to the Bachelor of Commerce program at U of C. But by then, of course, my grades were much better. And
by then, are you 21, 20?
Yeah,
are you a mature student in some people's eyes?
Yeah, probably 21. Let's see, 18 out of high school.
You're the math guy, not me.
21. Yeah, I was driving over. I was thinking, what year did you graduate from university? I'll tell you, even after thinking about it, I couldn't nail it down for sure. A while ago.
How important was that, though? Because so many parents, they push their kids to go from high school, what are you doing now? What post-secondary are you going to be doing? Tell me how important that was to have a bit of a breather, maybe for Bruce to grow before you really knew what you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah, it was so important. So important to me. I think it could be important for a lot of people. I think if you're not interested in learning, if you don't want to be there, and you find yourself really having to work hard just to do it because you have to be there for other people, I don't think it's for you. I think to go out and experience the world and see what it's like to have some individual responsibility, go pay your own bills, go do it. You have all the answers, right, when you come out of high school. It's a shame to not put them to use. Like, go
put all those answers
to use. Go do your thing.
You know what? We're going to find out more about your family, but how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
And give me a quick snapshot of their ages.
31, 30, 29, 28.
Because I'm curious, Bruce, the teenager coming out of high school, how is that different as Bruce, the father, looking at his 4 kids coming out of high school? Did you encourage them to take a certain path, or were they all very individuals?
Oh, I pushed school.
Did you? Well, you pushed school, but did you push school to the point where, here's high school, now where are you going?
Yeah, I kind of put it to my children the same way my father put it to me, and that was, when you graduate, decide what you want to do. If you want to go on to school,
right,
I'll support you. I'll help you do that. If not, find a job and find a place to live. In other words, you're going. I don't think even if we lived in the city, he would have let me stay at home to go to university.
Right.
To him, it was important that, now this is your journey, so it's important that you go out and you live it. And my father's big, again, on individual responsibility. And, I really played that for my kids. It was really important for me to know with each one of them that if something happened to myself or my livelihood, my wife or I, that every one of them would be okay, that they could pay the rent, that they could live and move on. And I'm proud to say that every single one of them showed that pretty quickly, even when they were in school. My son paid almost his entire way through his last 2 years of USC with no help from his parents.
And were they out of the house when they graduated from high school? Were they out?
Oh, pretty much, yeah. They, even today, we have a bit of a joke, my wife and I, about our kids, and that's nobody can move at home. You can't move back home, but you can land here.
Oh, okay.
Right? We're living our life now, and that was kind of it. It was, now it's our turn too, right? You've grown, you've got your things to do, and
right.
And it's important that we have our time. But we love our kids, and they do land at home now and again. Actually, some more than others, but they're all
not moving back. They're just landing and then maybe redirecting their life.
Yeah, if they're making a change in something, or they need whatever. We're a safety net, and we're parents. We love our kids and support them in anything.
I like that. Let's take a break here. Bruce Fikowski is our guest on today's Leaders. He's the CEO of GetAssist. I'm Angela Kokott. You're listening to Calgary Today on Newstalk 770.
Many top-notch individuals show the way. This is Today's Leaders, brought to you by GetAssist with Angela Kokott on Newstalk 770.
Bruce Fikowski is the CEO of GetAssist, and he is my guest today on Today's Leaders. Of course, we do this every Thursday from 3 to 4, and just in the commercial break, Bruce was commenting on our lovely studios, and we were actually on the street-level studio. If you were driving along 17th Avenue by our radio station, I guess you'd really have to look in very closely to be able to see us. But Bruce, yes, we are very proud of our studios here on 17th Avenue. You were talking about your kids. I want to go back, though, to your childhood, because you experienced a pretty big loss when you were just a teenager, and your sister passed away. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, she was killed in a car accident driving into Calgary here from the west. She was 15. I was 16 at the time. I was actually to meet her here in Calgary, and when we were leaving the resort, I was working, and she was supposed to be coming with me. And last minute she came in and she said, no, I'm going to catch a ride with Kent, who was a very good friend of mine. He died as well. And I got off work at 3, so I drove in. It was actually Midnight Madness at the Calgary Stampede. And I showed up. I didn't have a Midnight Madness ticket, so I just was going to Stampede. And I ran into the people she was meeting, and they had asked me, where's Valerie? And I said, well, she should be here. She left ahead of me. And midnight came, and then they gave me her ticket to stay, and I was wondering, where's my sister? And then I got home probably back to Olds around 2, and when I walked in, that's my father coming down the stairs, and he said something terrible's happened. And there was a hailstorm that night just before they got into Calgary on the, don't even remember, the RC overpass used to not be divided underneath.
Right.
And their car, this big hailstorm turned sideways, and it hit on her side. And 2 of the 3 passengers were killed. And
that was your friend Kent and your sister Valerie?
Yeah.
What kind of a relationship did you have with Valerie? I mean, you're just teenagers, but really, what did she mean to you?
Oh, she meant the world to all of us. She was we used to, we thought of her as the best of the brothers. She was a beautiful young lady, a lot of fun, tough. She's tough. And, How
hard was that for you as a teenager to accept the loss of your sister?
It was very hard. Yeah, it was very hard. It's hard on my whole family, who were very close. Back to work, like everybody, right?
Yeah.
Your life goes on, and you have to move ahead. And, I went back to work, and my parents sold the house because I was old enough to be working.
Right,
so,
right.
We still miss her today.
Well, that's great, though, that you have fond memories of her. So now you're at University of Calgary, and you actually said you graduated with, was it distinctions or honors?
With distinction from the Faculty of Management.
So after that, Bruce Fikowski, now I know what I'm doing. I'm on this path. Or like a lot of people who come out of university, they're saying, now what do I do?
Well, if you thought I knew a lot when I came out of high school, boy, I had to be the smartest guy on the planet when I came out with a degree. I did. I was a hard charger, and I was going to be a millionaire by 40 and, all those great things.
Right.
And a lot of ego and all those things that go with it. And I turned down a big job and went to work in the family business and helped shape it. And, you know, I brought a lot of skills to the table that we didn't have as a small business family.
So you weren't still pumping gas at the Saskatchewan River crossing?
No, I went back, and I was being bought out, and it was my oldest brother who took me aside to lunch one day, and he said, you know, what I do is what you should do. And he's 6 years older than I am.
Right.
And so you should bring your skills and you should come do these things. And I said, I can't do that. That's what you do. I'd never ask you to not do that. He said, no, what's best for the business, what's best for the family is if you want to do that, you should come back and let's talk about what that looks like.
Right.
And so I turned down a big job opportunity that had been given me, and I went to work in our family business. And
in a much different role, though, a much bigger role.
Yeah, in a much bigger role, more of a senior level, where it was about strategy. It was about bringing in systems and modernizing things. And
did your brother step away then, or was your brother still part of it?
Oh no. They're doing my job today.
Oh.
I've started GetAssist, and they're picking up all my responsibilities.
Right.
Hopefully, I'm still doing my bit. But they're very involved. I couldn't do that business without them.
Right.
Yeah, my brother Doug, great operations guy. He runs every department. My brother Michael, general manager, in charge of all our maintenance and infrastructure, and they're both great brothers too.
How many years has that been then that the family has been part of Saskatchewan River crossing?
This is our 41st season, 1975.
So you're running the family business, or part of the family business then. Were there challenges? Because some people might say, oh, that's great. You come out of university and right away you walk into a family operation. Tell me about some of the challenges that brought you.
Well, you know, I was lucky even going to school because we had a family business. So, I mean, everything I was learning, cash flow statements, people were struggling with. I was like, oh, yeah, I love this stuff, right? Give me more. It was no different going to work. I mean, in the family business, you know, it might be something you walk into, but trust me, you work as harder than most people do. You don't go home at the end of the day. It's always with you. You don't go home on weekends or holidays. We employ a lot of people, 70, 80 people. I've been very lucky to work with great people my whole life. You know, and you're responsible for them too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got lots of clients, and food and beverage industry is a tough one because every client's a critic. And
every client's a critic, you said.
Every client's a critic, and that's a good thing. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing. But so it isn't just walking into something. And then from there, my brothers and I have done some amazing things and been involved in a number of businesses, and my latest venture, GetAssist.
All right, I want to find out more about some of those businesses, but more importantly, GetAssist and how that launched. And I still want to find out, you know, you obviously had some challenges and what you learned from those challenges. Bruce Fikowski is my guest on today's Leaders. He is the founder of GetAssist. We'll find out all about that app and website and why he saw a need and how that is working out for him. I'm Angela Kokott. You're listening to Today's Leaders on Newstalk 770. I'm Angela Kokott.
They bring a unique perspective. They are at the forefront. They are Today's Leaders, brought to you by GetAssist, the people in Calgary that bring passion and dedication to what they do. Today's Leaders with Angela Kokott on Newstalk 770.
Leader is the CEO of GetAssist, Bruce Fikowski, and I'm going to find out about GetAssist. But Bruce is such an interesting guy on the outside. Behind all that, I will not forget to talk about GetAssist and how you got there. You said that you and your brothers, though, you're running Saskatchewan River Crossings, but you also ventured into other businesses. All successful? Everything you touched turned to gold?
No, of course not. No. We did, I guess, a notable project would be Lizard Creek Lodge and Condominiums in Fernie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big project for us. And that's where we pioneered fractional ownership in Canada, actually. We were the ones that, at the same time as a firm in Whistler was doing it, but we had pioneered that, and we were the first ones to market with it. So.
Which is much different than timeshare. For people who aren't familiar with the fractionalized ownership, just give us a snapshot of what that is.
Well, in fractional ownership, you actually take a fee simple title to the property. It's just divided at land titles, and there's different ways it's governed, usually with a head lease and an owners association and blah, blah, blah.
So that was great if you launched that.
It was fantastic. We built 85 condominiums and sold them, and we built a main lodge with 14 condominiums, spa. It's 4.5-star lodge. Excuse me. Very, very beautiful 4.5-star rock and big log, and the real estate play did very well. But all that money went back into the operations, because just as we were starting to put up the second building is when the plane struck the towers.
Oh, wow.
And the travel and tourism industry just flatlined.
Right.
And after that, it was a pretty good 10-year struggle till we were able to get out of it. We lost a lot of money down there, a lot of blood and treasure. But it was part of our personal development, part of, again, working with great people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been lucky.
And I think it's so important to point out that people who we feel like, they're the CEO of their own company, that they've gone through some trials and tribulations and what they've learned from them. And you're also then still in the hospitality industry during that time of 9/11.
Yes, we were doing that, and we were doing a commercial laundry as well, and Fernie Catering, taking care of all the hotels.
Right.
So big equipment, like combine folders and stuff like this. So there we were into commercial laundry. My brother Doug loves commercial laundry. Yeah.
And so when the industry hurts, everything tied to that industry is hurting as well.
Yeah, well, and our whole livelihoods, our families, everybody's was tied up in hospitality. And for instance, at our resort at the Crossing, we laid off 50 people within about 2 weeks of the towers. And, we're seasonal. We operate that time, usually by mid-November we were closing. Mm-hmm. We actually shut down in September that year. We just had to. It was, the people stopped coming up the road, the buses weren't there, and so it was. And then of course after 9/11, what did you have? You had H1N1 and SARS,
yeah.
and you know what? Those I think were even worse than the 9/11 was.
Do you ever wonder why you're in the hospital, why the family's in the hospitality industry? I mean, if it's not that, then we're looking at the dollar, and there's always one thing or another. Although this time the U.S. dollar is in your favor, at least.
It is. This year should be a great year for us. Actually, we've been seeing growth just started about 3 years ago again, and we've been working hard to bring the resort back because it was tough times. And it's funny that you mentioned. Do you ever wonder why you're in the hospitality industry? My brothers and I joke all the time. Geez, Dad, flipping over a burger $1.99. Guys are pumping holes and putting holes in the ground, making money overnight. It's like, really? But
this is what you gave us. But really, look at the experience. And I also think a lot of Canadians are saying, because of the way the dollar is, I'm having a staycation. I have talked to more people who are saying, I'm discovering my province, I'm discovering my country, I'm not going anywhere else. So finally, it's in tourism and hospitality's favor.
Yes, it is. And, even with 911, that car traffic picked up right from then. We don't do anywhere near the numbers that we used to do with bus traffic. We have this big bus parking lot. We used to do 60, 70 buses a day. We don't even use that for bus parking anymore. The number of buses just park out front. It's not we have this 300-seat, 6 semi-private dining rooms that, we feed maybe 200 people for lunch. We used to feed 1,200 a day. It's just not the same market.
Yeah, not the same market.
So sorry.
Yeah, but I want to know about your dad, because as you said, a smart guy. He's a test pilot, comes from Ottawa to Olds for farming.
No, he was all over the world. My one brother was born in Marville, France, on an Air Force base, and my brother dug out off Portage. And
right, you're
my
Ottawa,
sister and I in Ottawa.
Right, and so he comes to Olds, though. Eventually buys a hotel in Olds.
Well, his family, 12 brothers and sisters, total of 15 of them actually, and. So when he went into the forces, he traveled and did his thing. But when he decided to get out, his older brother, Joe, had the family farm. And the two of them went in business together and bought this hotel in Olds, Alberta, and got into the hotel business.
And then down the road, that's where they bought the river crossing.
My father had retired at a young age. I think he was 40-something. And kind of making the whole family crazy, because he's a stickler for everything. He used to run his fingers above the doors, and he'd catch him at the end of the day. He'd still be vacuuming. He had to do something.
There's that military in him.
Yeah, my brothers and us would get after Mom, get Dad to buy the IG, do something, get him out of here.
Right.
And we were having dinner one night when the phone rang, and my father was at dinner time. People didn't phone the house. It's let your friends know this is dinner time.
No one's
5 to 6. Right?
We're not picking up the phone.
So if it'd ring, he'd get up and answer it, and hello, please don't call between 5 and 6. Well, this one time he got up and all he said was, get this right, I'm never going back to Saskatchewan. And he hung up the phone. He came back to the table, and it rang again, and he went and took it, and he was a little longer this time because it was a gentleman who knew the family that had it, and the father had died. And a lot of things people don't know about the crossing is it's totally self-contained. You generate your own power, you treat your own water. It's got the infrastructure of a town. There's only a phone line there, and there wasn't then. It was all radio.
Right.
And so the father had died, and the widow had called this friend she knew, Rob Waddy, who had Falcon Industrial Properties in Calgary at the time, and said, Rob, I don't know what to do here. He's got 2 teenagers, and this resort, which at the time is nothing like it was now, it's pretty Western, you might say. And he hadn't met my father, but he had heard of him and asked around, and he phoned my father. He said, Mike, you don't know who I am. This is the story. I think this would be great for you. And so they jumped in the motorhome with my oldest brother driving, and went up the Nordegg Road, which was just mud and gravel back then.
Yes.
And my father said, I can't afford to buy this. I've done okay, but I can't afford this.
Right.
And he said, no, what we're going to do, Mike, is I'm gonna be your partner, and here's how you're going to pay me out, and we'll get you in there. And that's what they did, and it worked out for everybody.
So when he said, get this straight, I'm never going back to Saskatchewan, because they said you want to buy the Saskatchewan River crossing.
Yeah. So one of the first things on the order of the day after probably 5 years, and going to these trade shows, and no, we're Saskatchewan River crossing. Nobody wanted to go to Saskatchewan. Not that there's anything wrong with Saskatchewan, right?
I'm a Saskatchewanite, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
But these are tour companies that want to go see the glaciers, and Saskatchewan doesn't come into it.
Right.
So we began a program.
There's your marketing issue.
What are we going to call this place?
Your father, though, eventually has ALS. How old is he when he's diagnosed with ALS?
I think he was 50 or 51, young man. Yeah.
And, ALS, we hear what a terrible disease that is. So you would have been a young man as well when your father was diagnosed with that.
Yeah, I was probably 18 when he got diagnosed, 19 maybe. And it is a horrible disease. I mean, it's just I don't care how you look at it. It's one of the bad ones. And my mother took great care of him, and he lived well to the end. But it was hard on everybody, particularly hard on my mother.
He passes away when you still have about a year left in your university career?
Yes, and I believe I had one child at that time.
But he still was able to see you go back to university. It's funny, Bruce's wife, Kim, is here, and she just said actually you had 2 kids. But you know what? You can get lost in the details. But still, your father, before he passed away with this terrible disease, he actually saw you go back to university, and he probably knew that at least you're on the right path.
Yeah, he did. I'd left my big dreams of being a pro golfer behind in Florida. He made me give back my country club card because I didn't have anything, right? He was hoping I was going to go to school. And so when that passed, he'd go to work. But yes, he got to see me go back to school and do quite well.
Oh, that's great. 3:41, here I am getting caught up. I got to take a quick break here just to come back with Bruce Fikowski, CEO of GetAssist, and then we'll find out how GetAssist came out of someone who was busy operating the river crossing or the Saskatchewan River crossing. I'm Angela Kokott. You're listening to Today's Leaders on Newstalk 770. Back after this.
What's the old saying? Lead, follow, or get out of the way. This group definitely belongs in the lead category. You're listening to Today's Leaders, presented by GetAssist, with Angela Kokott on Newstalk 770.
And my guest this week is Bruce Fikowski, the founder and CEO of GetAssist. And we've just found out how Bruce has lost his father dying at a very young age of ALS. But you haven't been without your own health challenges. Twice you've had cancer?
Well, yeah, I had my first diagnosis, and they give you 5 years to call you cancer-free, but mine was very aggressive and stage 4, and they said that if the first round of treatment didn't work, we'd expect to see it within 3 years. And sure enough, in 2.5 years, it was back again. It was stage 4. It really wasn't considered operable. My surgeon had to go to quite some big lengths to get a team together to do it with me. And
wait, you have to tell people what the cancer was. So what was it?
It's head and neck cancer.
Head and neck cancer.
It's called squamous cell sarcoma, I believe.
But it started as just a lump on your neck?
No, I had just a swollen lymph node, under your jaw. And I had it looked at by a doctor and he just said, well, you had some dental work. It's probably just filtering out some infection. And
right.
Told me to follow up in a couple of weeks with my other doctor. But within a week, it was probably twice the size. It was really, I knew it was growing quickly.
Right.
So I went and saw another doctor. Mine wasn't in, but immediately they got me into a head and neck specialist. And the doctor looked at me before she'd really done anything but feel my jaw.
Yeah.
And said, it's cancer.
She could tell just by looking and feeling it.
Yeah, and my wife was down in the truck. I didn't want her to come up. I was just going in to see the doctor.
Yeah.
And I said, just like that, no tests, no anything, I've got cancer. And she goes, you're a smoker, aren't you? And I was a smoker. I said, yeah. She goes, don't tell me you've never thought about it. And I said, I have. I said, yeah, every time I get a sore throat. And she said, well, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put you on some penicillin, and if it goes away, you're golden. But it's not going to, because you have cancer. And she said, now what we have to do is we have to find out where the primary is, or where it is.
Yeah.
So she was going to do a needle biopsy. But when she took this thing that goes up your nose and down your throat, really uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
And she saw that my one tonsil on the right side was just a little bit squirrelier than the left. And she's decided, no, what we're going to do, we're going to take that tonsil out. And so I went from there into the medical process. And she called me at home and said, good news, bad news. Bad news, I was right. You've got cancer. Good news, we found it. It was in the tonsil. We know what the primary is. And you're scheduled to be at the Tom Baker Monday. And then my wife and I went over there and handed over our lives to them for the next, 6 weeks.
Yes.
And I had a brutal treatment. It's not very nice. It's radiation every day, chemo every day for about 40 days. And then, we got through that.
Did you quit smoking, or had you quit smoking by that time that it was discovered?
When she told me, the best thing that you can do today for yourself is to quit smoking, and I never smoked again.
Wow.
And, it's funny, I'd struggled with quitting like everybody else. It's hard.
Yeah.
There's no way to just cut it. And, I never smoked again, and, I didn't struggle with it. I didn't think about it. I didn't miss it. And I went down to the truck there on the dash, but I never smoked again.
So it comes back, did you say, within that 3-4 years, did you say?
We were hoping to see that 3-year mark and be clean, because I was told this is the period you're going to, if it's here, if we missed one cell, you're going to see it in 3 years.
Right.
And I knew something was wrong. I went back to see my surgeon, Dr. Bosch here in Calgary. Go Bosch.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. And, he felt my neck up, and I said, so should we do a scan? He said, for what? I said, to see if it's there. He goes, it's there, Bruce, it's here. And he said, we gotta find out more right away. But, I couldn't get into a scan right away, so I paid. I went right over across town, and not everybody can do that, but I paid $1,200, and he phoned over instructions, and it was bad news. It was bad. It was stage 4. It had progressed up into my head. I lost my internal jugular. I lost the whole side of my, you can't tell too much here, but I lost my muscles.
Yeah.
And, but he had to try and get a team together. And he was on the streets of Ottawa on his vacation, and he was phoning me saying, you got to go to Tom Baker. There's a meeting. You have to go to it. I told these guys, you're young, you're strong, and they want to meet with you. And I did, with my wife, of course. And we made the decision to have the surgery.
How long ago was that?
That 5 years clean.
You're 5 years clean?
This July, yeah.
Wow, how important that is.
Yeah, because again, it was this whole 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Right? So going, and of course, I was also told there, when I got out of the surgery, and it's a big recovery, that I said, so what happens if it comes back? They said, there's nothing more we can do for you. So they won't scan, we won't do anything, because there's nothing we can do. So getting through that 3-4 year period was, it was hard on us. It was, of course, you're sitting there every time you get a lump or
yes.
Of course, the first thing, I got to learn after a while, though, it's probably not.
Right.
So don't go running around worrying about everything. Chances are it's not. It's nasty, but 50% mortality rate.
Well, and that's why I tell everyone, you celebrate those birthdays. So there's a lot of people who don't get to celebrate the birthdays, no matter how old you are. 3:51, we've got to take a quick break here for traffic. Helicopter traffic brought to you by Truman. Escape the concrete jungle and discover 1741. Register now at live@1741.com.
Through the Northeast, the Airport Trail tunnel is still closed off between Barlow Trail and 36th Street. That's for the wind blowing debris around in that area. Just lots of crews on scene there trying to clean that up. Also in the Northeast, northbound Deerfoot Trail is looking a little slow right now between 64th Avenue and 32nd Avenue. And Crowchild Trail through the southwest looking a little slow in both directions right now. Southbound between Glenmore Trail and 33rd Avenue, and northbound between Memorial Drive Northwest and 26th Avenue Southwest. Not everyone is an expert driver, but the experts at your Alberta Ford store have the training needed to keep your vehicle running smoothly. So beware of parts unknown. For the Newstalk 770 Traffic Helicopter, I'm Chris Duchesne.
Our forecast looks a little like this. We've got sunshine tomorrow morning, a high of 13 degrees. Then it's going to get cloudy in the afternoon. On Saturday, 15, a mix of sun and clouds. Sunday, mostly sunny and a high of 11 degrees. The weather brought to you by 24/7 Electric. Get more from your electrician. Want a scheduled appointment? 24/7 Electric does that. Call 587-315-1361. Right now in Calgary, we have 13 degrees, and you know how windy it is out there if you've been out there. Bruce Fikowski is the CEO of GetAssist, and he has joined us on this week's Today's Leader. Bruce, we found out so much about you, but I have to find out about GetAssist because, you know, you're operating the river crossing, Saskatchewan River Crossing. You've dabbled in other businesses, but then how did GetAssist come to be?
Well, you know, that was how it came to be. This is a true story. Hang the light above the dining room table. Hang the light above the dining room table. Now, I built hotels, condominiums. We build all the time. I can certainly hang a light. But I'm busy. I'm a very busy guy, and I wasn't doing that. But at the time, we had gotten our family out of the Lizard Creek Lodge operation, and so I was down to just a business or two, and I was getting bored, and I was thinking, geez, what do I want to do? And I had done some private consulting. And I thought, well, I kind of like that. You know, you pick what you get to do.
Right.
And so I started thinking, you know, a boutique firm. I know a lot of guys with a lot of skills. So whether it's horses or boats or business.
Or electrician to hang the light.
Or electrician to hang the light. I thought, you know what, I should put together a boutique firm with all these skilled guys on board.
Right.
And I was actually on 52nd Street Southeast, turning left onto 130th Avenue, just leaving my house.
I love how you know exactly where this was.
I'll never forget that moment because it was a red light and I was turning left. And I thought, why are you thinking about this and why are you thinking so small? All these guys are already there doing it. And that's when I realized this is a communication problem. There is 56,000 small service providers in the city, and I'm a grassroots guy. I mean, I'm a grassroots team player. I'm a believer in grassroots. This were the hardworking men and women that drive the economy and everything else. Are grassroots people. And I know a lot of these grassroots service providers. And I thought, you know, they can't advertise. They can't let me know that they're available to me. And yet, I need to get that light hung.
Yes.
And I'm willing to pay $400. It's probably a $100 job.
Shoot, I wish you had called me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But nobody wants to even hear that, right?
Yes.
You can't phone and say, listen, I don't care what you want, I'll pay you double. Buddy, we're not out in that area right now.
Right.
And so I saw it as simply a communication problem. So I looked to the number one communication tool of our time, and that was social media. And I saw how well we were using that. And it didn't take very long to say, you know, if I want to watch somebody stand on their head in Tanzania, this is the platform for me. But what I did is I took it and reclaimed it as a communication tool and started connecting people purposefully. And what we did was we've populated 2 communities on a single connected network. It hasn't been done before, right? It's ad-free social. It's manageable social. If you're not on social media, you need to get on GetAssist and create a private community for your family. That's our unique connection feature. It's called the community. And you create them or you join them. They're public or private. When they're private, they're completely private. They're invitation only. It's how you can reconnect with your family and your friends
And you don't have to read a bunch of Facebook posts. I don't want to slam Facebook, but I'm just taking a bit of a break from Facebook.
I'm slamming them.
No, but this would be a true community where
the three big features of GetAssist. One is your network. You connect in communities. You create them or you join them. You make them public or private. You can have as many as you want. The second big feature of GetAssist is it's connected with business. So you can make requests and get help when you need it. I need to fix my stove when you want it. A price point you want to have it fixed at, send it off. We have over 800 Calgary businesses now on board in 4 months. We'll be 1,000 by the end of the month, 50 to 60 a week. Business gets it.
Business gets it. How do you get that word out? Because, social media, but as I mentioned in my intro, we are app crazy. We're website crazy. How do you make sure GetAssist is heard amongst all that noise?
Well, we're a site, and we have apps for iOS and Android. The social is completely free. Grassroots, inexpensive on the business side. Most you can spend is $25 a month and $2 for a request. But how we get it out there is, one, we have branded, trained salespeople. We have a big team, and a big shout-out to my team. I work with some of the greatest people ever, and Team GetAssist is certainly one of them. A lot of radio. We've been on the Chorus Radio Network. Yeah. We've been across a lot of radio networks. We've been out on as many as 15 billboards at a time. We launched our beta in June in a small town, Alberta. You can guess where that was.
I'm guessing Olds.
Good call. So we launched it there. We didn't have apps, just a site. And we were very well received in Olds by the Rotary, by the Olds Institute, by lots of people.
I signed up last night.
Did you?
Now that you tell me that I can just get my own little family community.
Yes. I'm serious about those family communities. You create them, and because the third big feature of GetAssist, so you connect to business, you can get help. But you can also browse jobs they put up, and when the buy and sell feature comes, you'll be able to buy and crawl across the entire network. But the third big feature is the news feed, and we call it the grapevine because this is all about communities.
Right.
And you only hook up to your grapevine what you want to hook up. It's a very personal thing. There's no advertising on GetAssist. So you can be members of different communities. I have private communities for my sales team. I have for my offices, my different management teams, with my family, with my wife and kids, with an extended family. And so on my app, if I go through my grapevine, it's just content I want to see.
Yeah.
Right? It's fantastic. And so my daughter's in Regina, and the other kids, we don't get together all the time, but Mom makes sure we get together enough. You can share those pictures, those memories and things that you can't on social. So right now, I don't know about everybody else out there, but I can guess that you've got a lot of pictures that you take that sit on your phone, they sit in the cloud, or they sit on your hard drive, and you can't share them because you're not going to put them out on public social media.
To everyone. I don't want to show it to everyone.
Yeah, well, GetAssist is what it's all about. And, it's a great product. I'm very impressed. I was lucky enough to find a development team.
You know what, Bruce? We've run out of time, and I want people to know, when I even said, Bruce, I will eventually talk about GetAssist, he goes, oh, don't worry, Ange, that doesn't matter. So, really, this is not, I know he's the sponsor of our Today's Leaders, but he would have been fine if we just kept talking about his wife, who he loves very much, and his family as well. Bruce, thank you so much for being part of Today's Leaders today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Bruce Fikowski. He is the founder and CEO of GetAssist. We've got news coming up next. I'm Angela Kokott. You're listening to Newstalk 770.